To all anxious attached girlies, how to stop being jealous and comparing yourself to social media, to his ex, to people on TV, around your avoided attached partner. What nobody tells you, it's not about them, it's not about the seductive scenes on TV, his ex, or the other person on social media. It's not even about your partner, it's all about you. So what do I mean with this? It's all about your anxious attachment. It's all about your programming. It's all about your unworthiness wounds and abandonment wounds. And this is the good news. This is good because you can change only yourself. You can't change other people. You can try. Trust me, I've tried many times. This only creates more anxiety, more relationship anxiety. By the end of the episode, you'll understand that jealousy doesn't just have to rule your relationship and your life anymore, and it can actually become an opportunity for growth. I speak from experience because I've been anxiously attached for more than 30 years, and I've healed my anxious attachment style within about 6 months, and you can do this too. Welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. I'm Yula, your Anxious to Secure coach. Again, a few years ago, I lived with my avoidant partner in a flat in London in just one room, and we were arguing back and forth. We were triggering each other's core wounds. I had an abandonment wound and unworthiness wound, meaning I always felt insecure. I was worrying a lot about my relationship. I really didn't know what was going on. I didn't know about attachment theory. I didn't know that my thoughts created my anxiety, that, through my actions, I triggered him and making him feel like being trapped and losing his independence. But the truth is that it wasn't his actions that made me feel that I wasn't good enough. It was my thoughts about the situation that made me feel anxious and worried and insecure and jealous. And it has nothing to do with him. It wasn't his fault that he was doing that. It was like all of this was happening subconsciously. And the more we are becoming aware of our subconscious patterns, the more we can heal from from ourselves. Because again, anxious and avoidant are always like attracting each other because of our childhood experiences. And the more we become aware of our patterns, the more we can heal ourselves. And then it can create a ripple effect in our relationship. So I went from feeling constantly insecure in my relationship to kind of chasing my partner's validation and reassurance to chasing my own reassurance and validation, and really learning tools to feel secure from within and feeling validated from within, because no amount of reassurance or validation will ever make you feel secure or good enough if you don't create this from within. It's like same for social media. If you only chase likes on social media, you will always chase and you will never feel good enough, because your validation and reassurance and security and your worth is always tied to their actions. And if you can relate to any of this, please, follow me on YouTube or, Spotify, on Apple, wherever you're listening to, and, follow along with my journey, become more secure from within. By the way, disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. So I've got a listener's question and I would love to answer this today. And it was about my biggest challenge is PTSD and anxiety related to cinematic nudity with my boyfriend. And then she continued saying, my first partner watched, let's call it, adult movies behind my back for years. Knew that it made me uncomfortable, but he lied and hid it. I also grew up in a Christian environment, taught that guys couldn't control their thoughts. I'm worried my current partner will compare me to the woman on TV. He's reassured me he doesn't care, but I can't understand that. I don't want him to resent me or get annoyed with my anxiety. Thank you so much for opening up, and I really appreciate that. Here's the deal. It's not about really what your partner used to watch, or even if you watch something on TV right now with you. It's about what it really brings up in you. So seeing women on social media or TV, or even, let's say, if your partner would be friends with his ex, is something that is related to what you believe. It's about your thoughts, because your thoughts create your feelings. And if you've experienced betrayal before, your partner has lied to you for years, your body remembers that. So your nervous system is wired to protect you from that feeling of being hurt again. It's completely natural to feel uneasy. Your anxious attachment style and your pattern gets reinforced when your boundaries has been crossed. Like in the past, for example, healing your past memories is really key of moving forward. So why does, for example, jealousy, anxiety feel so triggering? Jealousy isn't just about what's happening right now in the moment when you watch movies about romantic scenes, for example, or nudity. It's about what's rooted in your past, the deep-seated patterns and beliefs. So when you were growing up, for example, you might have picked up beliefs like men can't control their thoughts, or I have to compete with others to get their attention. So these beliefs can really make you feel like you're not good enough, perhaps, or you're not lovable, or you have to be perfect to, or you have to cover yourself up to. Yeah. When something like this happens again, it reminds you of these beliefs again, and your emotions can get all over the place. And it often boils down to this. You might fear that you're not good enough. So that's what's actually triggering you. Ask yourself, what is the actual fear? When we talk about anxious attachment style and attachment theory, we're looking at how we have learned to connect with our parents or people who raised us when we were a kid. So if your caregivers were inconsistent, sometimes loving and sometimes not, you internalize the message that love might not be always there when you need it. And this then creates an abandonment wound, the fear that the people you care about can leave or might leave. And as a child, you couldn't think rationally about this, about your about your parents' behaviors, and you take everything personal. You don't understand that your parents' actions are not your fault. And this then creates also an unworthiness wound of feeling like I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, or I have to be perfect, and I only get attention when I cry, because otherwise my brothers or my siblings get attention. And this could have created this deep craving for closeness and reassurance, because you might have been afraid of being abandoned. And that's behind the anxious attachment style. What's happening now is that you're an adult. Like now that you're grown up, your childhood fears are still showing up nowadays when you're triggered. You might catch yourself constantly worrying your partner's going to leave, subconsciously maybe, or more consciously, and maybe you worry that they'll find someone better, or that they're comparing you then again with people on TV, people who are perfect, with this perfect body. And so one tip I would have here, really become aware of your thought pattern, journal it down. I always journal it every morning, and then every time when I'm triggered, to just let your thoughts flow, to really figure out what is going on here. And then it's also so intense because it's tapping into, the pain from when you were little. It's actually not the pain from right now. It's a very deep, unprocessed feeling and emotion usually. That's often when we are very triggered nowadays, and it's often unstuck, unprocessed emotions that we never really managed to release. So learning to process your emotions, learning to really manage to self-soothe and to release all of this is one of the things that I teach my clients in my one-on-one coaching sessions and my programs. A huge foundational piece, because for like 30 plus years, again, I didn't know I had an anxious attachment style, eventually developed chronic migraines because our mind and body is connected, and unprocessed emotions eventually gets physically, and you might have headaches or feeling stressed eventually, but eventually for years and years this turns into a chronic illness. But yeah. And how does exactly jealousy actually connect with the childhood? Because jealousy is not an emotion we are born with, right? So for example, if you felt unseen or unimportant as a kid, jealousy hits harder when, let's say, your partner seems distracted or doesn't give you the attention you crave, or when, they're glued to these perfect characters on screen. This can be now even more triggering. I could go very much into detail about a more conservative or Christian upbringing, how this is related, but that's again another whole topic. So the question is, why does jealousy and comparison hurt you actually more than your partner? That is a very interesting question to discover here as well. So you don't compare when you feel secure, right? A securely attached person doesn't compare herself with the people on screen. Like when my partner, for example, watches TV nowadays, I don't feel jealous or insecure anymore. Actually, a fun story. My partner stores all of his old pictures on Amazon, this storage thingy, and all of his pictures are linked and synced up there. Sometimes I watch something on YouTube, and then I continue working. So all of his pictures playing in the background. And sometimes, like once a week or every other week, his ex-girlfriend shows up on our TV in our living room. Years ago, this would have been so triggering for me. Maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. No, I think 5 years ago, maybe. If you are anxiously attached, and if you have this unworthiness wound, and if there's something in you already that feels insecure and anxious, this feels very triggering for you. But if you feel extremely secure and confident in yourself, I can handle a breakup, I can handle the future. When I used to be anxiously attached, I thought my partner is my whole world. And if anything would ever happen to us, everything would fall apart. I wouldn't be able to cope with the breakup, with the emotions, with the loneliness, with everything that comes to it. So subconsciously, I was holding on so tight because the thought of us not being together would be unimaginably painful. Thinking like, this has to work. I only have fun with him. Without him would be so boring, and I just couldn't cope, and I wouldn't know what to do without him. But nowadays I feel so different because I've learned to build a life without my partner, to fill my own cup, to make myself happy. My partner is just another part of me. So it's like if you imagine a Venn diagram, 3 circles, you, partner, and then it's the relationship, and you all kind of equally overlap each other. The anxious attachment style is like the 3 circles would overlap so much that there's not enough for the relationship to be on its own. For your partner, for yourself. And the avoidant attachment style is trying to escape completely, and there's not enough overlap at all existing. The secure attached person has like this healthy amount of overlap, because you have to be able to create your own hobbies, pour into yourself. My partner would travel suddenly for 3 months or half a year or even a year somewhere, I would be completely fine. I would be happy for him. I would be supporting him. Nothing to worry about. I would actually probably excited so I can pour into my life more, and looking forward to the time when then we come back together, going back to where we were. So what is jealousy revealing about you? That is the question. Jealousy isn't about the other woman. It isn't about the perfect body on the screen or on social media. It isn't about your partner's ex. Jealousy is about you and your own fears, because you don't feel good enough. Even if your partner would always validate you, would always, get the highest amount of reassurance, because, you as the listener said, my partner did reassure me, but it's not enough. That's exactly what's proving the point. No amount of reassurance will be ever good enough to really make you feel secure if you have an abandonment wound, if you have an unworthiness wound, and if you have an anxious attachment style, because these wounds, these fears, and these beliefs were created when you were young. So you have to rewire your beliefs, your fears, and you have to change these for yourself through, rewiring your beliefs, through changing your thoughts, and then aligning them with actions to really create a secure attachment style and stop chasing your partner's reassurance. And it also starts with stop comparing yourself, because that's just a trap, because no one is perfect, and people on screen and on social media and all of this is just a fantasy. No one is really living up to that fantasy. It's like comparing like apples to, was it a peach or what they say? And there's just one you out there, and your partner has chosen you for you. There's a reason why your partner's with you right now. And if you feel triggered by your partner's actions, it's not that your partner's necessarily doing something wrong. It's more like they're rubbing your wound. So it's your thoughts about what's happening in your relationship that really creates the pain, because the pain is coming from the past. By the way, if you were to go deeper, and if you want my help to, stop jealousy, stop comparing yourself, and create a secure attachment style, you can book a free call with me. I can really help you to figure out which of my programs is the best for you if you really are ready to heal your anxious attachment style, or if you want just, one of my courses on stop overthinking, stop your text anxiety, and any of my other programs that are maybe a better fit for you. So I want to really, vet and see if we are a good match together. So now the real question is actually, what are you really afraid of? All emotions are just cues. So jealousy is just telling you, often that is tied to losing something or someone. So are you afraid of losing them? Or losing your sense of self-worth? Let's say if you think they're comparing you to maybe their ex or someone on TV, someone on social media, ask yourself this: are you comparing yourself first? Because the fear isn't just about them watching something or someone, it's about what you believe this means. It's often because you compare yourself. It's not because they're comparing you to them. It's often because you compare yourself. Are you afraid you will lose your partner eventually because you will never be able to keep up, with this perfect fantasy, an unrealistic version of what you see? The so what game to really challenge your fears and challenge your beliefs. Ask yourself, so what? So what if this fear were actually true? Because maybe you don't want to gaslight yourself. He prefers these fantasy versions over me. So what? What is the scary thing about this? Maybe because then he wouldn't want to be with me. So what if this was true? Then I would have to break up with me, or probably he would break up with me eventually. So what? Then this would really break my heart. I would end up alone. And so what? Usually you'll end up in the end with, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable. And this is exactly the problem. You will have subconsciously tied their actions to your self-worth, because they might break up with you, because maybe they'll find someone else, maybe they, cheat on you or do whatever. You make this mean something about your self-worth. And that is the issue, because that's why you feel this emotional pain. The deeper really we go, the more limiting beliefs we will find. We tell ourselves thousands of lies that add to our emotional pain. So here's the good news though. Your heart actually won't be broken, because that's like impossible, right? But you feel emotional pain, and that's valid. Our emotions are always valid, but our stories are questionable, because this is just our thoughts, and our thoughts are not facts. Trust me, ask any doctor if you don't believe me. So heartbroken is actually a thing. It's not a real medical term, but because, we really want to question our thoughts and our words we choose here, because our thoughts create our emotions. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to be heartbroken, this really feels really strong. So you really want to choose your words wisely, so you don't really feel more emotional pain. When you tell yourself, my heart will be broken and shattered, I will be ending up alone forever, and there's no one else like my partner. You won't be able to handle the breakup. Guess what? You will accept anything in your relationship, any breadcrumbs. It's about knowing that no matter what happens in your future, you can trust yourself that you've got this. You have yourself, and you'll be your biggest cheerleader. You will be kind to yourself. You'll be able to grieve when you want to grieve. You'll be able to move forward if you were ready to move forward. You're not going to tell yourself, see, you should have known this. You should have known 30 years ago that he is a cheater and this and that. That you have to talk yourself with kindness when things turn sour. Now, there are two things about comparison. There's upwards comparison and downwards comparison, and none of them are helpful. Upwards comparison is if you say like, she's prettier, more successful, and I'm not good enough. It's like you put her like on this pedestal, like it makes you feel smaller. And that's usually the thing that you use if you have an anxious attachment style. And downward comparison is the thing, if you say, if you look down to them, it's like, at least I'm not like her. It's not an attempt to feel better by putting, others down. But here's the thing, both of them will leave you stuck. It's about your uniqueness, what you bring to the table. And I also want to mention here, you can also set healthy boundaries for yourself in your relationship, that is really tied to your values, that what you want in your relationship, what you feel is acceptable. And you can also at the same time work on your self-esteem, work on your self-worth, work on becoming more securely attached and more secure, so that these triggers don't have power over you anymore. Shift from comparison to inspiration. When you feel triggered, ask yourself this: what is about her that I admire, instead then focusing on building the confidence inside yourself. By the way, I've created a free boundary toolkit that you can grab for free. It's linked in the description or the show notes if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And this will really help you if you are having anxious attack or if you're highly sensitive. Now, turning triggers into healing. Now, what you can do is also, instead of spiraling, pause and ask yourself this. What is this showing about myself? What do I believe about my self-worth in my relationship here? Where did this start for me? And what are the consequences of holding on to this belief? Little tip, journal these questions because this has a much deeper impact. Also ask yourself, why do I not believe my partner when he tells me he doesn't compare himself? If you don't believe what your partner says, that creates a distrust. And also understand your part. You don't believe him because of your past relationship, and then because of your upbringing. These are two valid reasons why you don't believe your current partner in your current relationship. But that can create a huge impact on your future of your relationship and how you feel show up every day. Find proof every day why you can believe your partner, why your partner might be different to your ex and to your previous beliefs of what you grew up to believe was true. And this is how you can learn to build more trust in your current relationship. And you can also have a very open and vulnerable chats with your partner saying, these are my fears and this is my past relationship and my upbringing, and I'm really trying to work on this, and I hope you're patient with me, and I realize it has nothing to do with you, really more about to do with me, and I hope you can support me on this, so that you create also more trust in just by being open and honest about what's actually going on here. So why does this rewire our brain? When we pause and reflect of what's actually going on with our beliefs, we create a distance. Instead of just reacting to our past patterns, it's like taking a different route that we have never really taken before. Then start to create new neural pathways in our brain. And with repetition and emotion, we then, reinforce these pathways in our brain, and we strengthen them over and over again. And these old pathways and these old beliefs should start to break apart. And the more we challenge our old beliefs and repeat our new thoughts, the more they become automatic and turn into beliefs. So how can you shift your questions? So instead of why is she better than me, ask how can I use this as an inspiration? And if you don't feel good enough from inside you, no amount of validation or reassurance will ever make you feel good from inside you. And then again, you don't have to be okay with everything that's happening in your relationship. If your partner does something, you can set healthy boundaries aligned with your values that feel true for yourself. And very important is as well, practice self-compassion. So when you feel anxious or triggered or jealous, when things like this come up, have really compassion for yourself, for the younger version in yourself that is triggered here, and really talk to yourself with kindness, with compassion, and really be there for yourself first of all. And then I would journal out like a trigger action plan and what you're going to do exactly next time when you feel anxious and triggered when you watch TV. Like, what are you going to do first? What are you going to do second? Like, I'm taking maybe a step outside for just a few minutes, telling your partner you will be back in a minute. Deep breathing, maybe journaling out your thoughts, challenging your beliefs, maybe then later opening up with your partner about this and really being there for yourself as well. And by shifting from really comparison to really inspiration, you're training your brain to focus on growth and possibilities instead of scarcity. To rewire your mind from seeing just challenges and what ifs and negatives to actually, hey, what else is out there for new opportunities, for moments of growth and inspiration, and hey, you know what, I can be there for myself, and it doesn't have to mean all of the negative things. And understanding this comes actually from my past. It doesn't have to mean anything bad from my current relationship. And the more you do this, the more you create security from within, and the more you then actually learn to, talk positively to yourself and reassure yourself, the more you can learn also self-soothe. Don't forget to jump on my free wait list to heal your anxious attachment style. It's the anxious to secure blueprint, my signature course to heal 95% faster with really the powers of your subconscious mind. I'm going to link it again everywhere. The first few days is going to be a massive discount, and then the price will go up every few days. So I'm so happy you've listened in. Change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought and action by action. And now, episode by episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, Yula.